It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Thursday. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Eric. Before we go any further, I just want to play a couple of cuts from Charlie Kirk, and then we can discuss everything. For people who may not know, Charlie Kirk. I did exactly what you did.
I did that during the
pre-show
meeting.
Yeah,
I've done it a number of times over the years.
Eric did, and I said, no, it's Charlie Kirk, and then I get on and say Charlie.
There was a famous Charlie Cook probably a couple actually, I think, over the years.
And National Review.
Yeah, and of course Charles Cook. Yes,
Charles. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's. I just want to play the audio of a couple of audios of Charlie Kirk to show you why. You have the reaction that you have of so many in the media today. And I say media because it even crosses some political lines. Yeah. There's a number of liberals, liberal activist, trans, lesbian that looked and said, we love Charlie Kirk because of this. We disagreed with him on so much, but we loved him because he always invited us to have a discussion with him. But I want to play this first. This is one back and forth that he had at one of the college campuses.
I got a question.
Sure. What was your name again? I'm sorry.
I don't think I told you. My name's Mercury.
Nice to meet you.
Why are you here?
Okay, I've been asked that question a lot. First of all, that question should not even have to be asked, but when people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group.
We'll have more of that coming up, but I just wanted to play that part of it. And then a young woman, she looks like she's of college age, and this is about her having the feelings of being trans.
Yeah.
And here's some of the back and forth of that one.
I just want to say I'm a transgender male. What age should kids be able to get things like hormone therapy? Because I don't know what's true, what's not.
Tell me, are you comfortable telling me your story?
I've known that since like third grade, and I'm currently 19, almost 20. I've known basically since then. I didn't start going by like a different name until 7th and 8th grade. I just don't know, like, with the whole medical stuff, like what's true, what's not, what's helpful, because I've heard so many different opinions.
First of all, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going to have an opinion that very few people will ever tell you, which is I want you to be very cautious putting drugs into your system in the pursuit of changing your body. Mm-hmm. I instead encourage you to work on what's going on in your brain first. I think what you need first and foremost is just a diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Just someone that is going to listen to what you've gone through, listen to what else is going on. My prayer for you, and again, very few people will say this, I actually want to see you be comfortable in how you were born.
Yeah.
I know that you might not feel that way, but I think that is something that you can achieve. I think that with the right team and the right people, you don't have to wage war on your body.
This hit both of us very, very hard.
Yeah.
And it hit us hard because, number one, he's so young. I'm looking at him now, looking at his picture, and I'm like, compared to me, he's a kid.
Yeah. He started Turning Point at the age of 18. You and I were talking about that in the pre-show meeting. He still looks like he's, in his early, he still looked like he was 20 or 21. I mean, he's just so young. He was
got had baby face.
He was half my age.
Yeah. And when you look at the fact that where you have the most authoritarian dictatorships to keep conservative ideas especially social conservative ideas, out of it. At 18 years old, he said, forget about college. I've done a ton of research. The history books are there. I can tell you about the history of the country, the Constitution. I can talk about morality. I can talk about Christianity. I can disagree with you. And at the same time, you will know that I don't hate you, that I love you.
And that you're welcome here at the table.
And that you're always welcome here at the table. And if you have time, I'll go out to have a cup of coffee with you. You and I, what we deal with the majority of times in the arena of ideas is the elite, professional, far left, socialist, communist, liberal. But they're the professionals. What Charlie Kirk spent so much of his time talking about, and this relates to something that you and I were talking about yesterday with that survey that showed that so many young people are embracing socialism and or communism.
Yeah.
And you and I both said they don't even know what they're getting into. All of this is based in ignorance. That was his opinion.
Yeah,
I saw a number of quotes yesterday when he said, these are the young minds out there. And when you see everything from the radical transgender movement that wants to do everything, cut the kids' body parts off when they're young, put in the hormonal treatment. They don't want to have a discussion on it. How many times have we played Josh Hawley with the Berkeley professor? And he was doing the same thing that we were doing. Don't be on the defensive. In the arena of ideas, you attack, but you attack with compassion. We've said this before. The left doesn't care about the individual person, young person, who believes that they were born in the wrong body. Well, there isn't compassion. People like Charlie Kirk, he had the compassion, and he was willing to talk to them and invite them in. You mentioned that in some of the early tapes before he was murdered, there were protesters.
Yeah.
There were protesters up there, trans protesters
LGBTQ.
up there. And he invited, come on down. Don't be up there. Come on down. Have the debate with us.
To be part of the conversation.
Right. He is exactly what he was exactly. Well, I'll say is because his spirit isn't going to die.
No, in fact, I think his legacy, if you think of a movement like what Turning Point is, and it happened, it had to be, in that moment, it had to be somebody exactly like Charlie Kirk, exactly at that point in their life. When he started Turning Point, it was the stars were aligned. It was because if you think about what he's doing, he's fighting indoctrination. By that time, 12 years or more, maybe 18 years or more, depending on their home. But he's fighting this indoctrination, and he's doing it at a time when he started Turning Point, 2012. The internet, smartphones were still there. They're being young minds are being bombarded, just like they are today, even more so today, with information that is shaping their minds. And he walked straight into the fire, to ground zero, to confront it simply with a conversation. That's all he wanted. A conversation. And the difference, too, is that those of us who are believers, those of us who value life, that's where it begins and ends. I've said this over the years. And that doesn't just mean of course it starts at the very beginning of that life, but it's all throughout that life, which means what that person is going through now, what they've been through to get them here. You just heard it in that exchange. When he was talking about, here's what I want for you. Here's what I pray for you. He wasn't condemning this person. He was fully appreciating where this person is, how they got there, and where they want to go. That's the essence of valuing life. You value every day of that life throughout. And when you value life, when we have a society that values life, the way that Charlie Kirk did, the way that many, if not most of us do, then you have that appreciation, understanding, and love for that person, even though they may be opposed to you politically or may be opposed to your religion or anything else. It all begins with valuing life.
He wanted to have the debate. He wanted to do, I keep thinking about the one college professor I've talked about before that loved having the debates in his class, the history professor, Dr. Alan Sachs. And again, he wasn't in the business we were in, but he loved the debating. He loved hearing young people.
A joyous individual,
a joyous, yeah, exactly. And I thought about the late Dr. Alan Sachs when all day yesterday, and I thought to myself, I said, wow, in a way, Charlie Kirk is the same way. I'm going to bring joy.
Yeah.
If you disagree with me, no, come on, have the debate. Come on, no, go.
Sure.
No, come on, tell me exactly what you think, and I'll tell you why I disagree with you on it.
Right.
But the whole spirit was, this is the United States of America. We should have a vibrant debate.
Yeah.
And on the ideas. I mean, that's what we're all about.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'll take you out and have a cup of coffee.
The people come and go. You and I have said this for years. The people come and go. The ideas remain. And this is what you and I have focused on for years, because there's a lot about, this, I don't know, it just gets crazy sometimes in creating the idols within the political realm. Well, we don't need to do that. I mean, we can support someone and then also say, okay, I disagree with them here. You can disagree with the people even on your side. You can disagree. You can vote for someone, as I've done over the years, as you have done, and also disagree with them. And I don't believe that's a bad thing. You and I get some kickback for that. But if you think about Charlie Kirk's approach, he knew the overwhelming majority of the individuals in those settings, on those campuses, and when he was going to be out there having those discussions, were not on his side. And he's sitting there with an open mic. You and I have done that a couple of times in a live broadcast setting. And it's, and we didn't fear anything, but we do know that people might approach a microphone, because we were having some back and forth with people in that setting when you and I were doing it. And you don't know what they're going to say. You have no idea what they're going to say. And Charlie didn't either, but he was always prepared. And that goes back to conviction. That goes back to what you believe in, standing for it. And again, as he mentioned in that cut that you played, there has to be that discussion. Those discussions, there has to be ongoing communication with the people you agree with and disagree with at all times. And there's nothing wrong with it, and it never has to escalate. It's tragic what happened yesterday.
And to do it on college campuses to the far left, the power base of the far left, they viewed, I believe, that people like him are actually the most dangerous.
Yes.
Because there was a willingness, when you saw the videos that come out, a willingness of people on the left, especially on the social left, that would debate him back and forth and laugh and say, thank you so much. There was a cooperation there. They weren't treating him like a Hitler.
Yeah, right.
And there's nothing more dangerous to the left in this country than actually having a civil debate with somebody who is a social conservative.
Or real journalism, like we talked about with Barry Weiss. And the criticism she's getting now, because the story that the Free Press is possibly going to be sold or bought out by Paramount Plus, or we don't know where it's going to go, but it's going to be a part of CBS News, according to the story. And the critics of that, the critics of her, cannot stand that she's not, you and I don't see her as a conservative. We don't have any brand for her that's not based on her work, which is journalism.
Yeah. And that's where the fear, if you look at the big picture, and the reason I think it hit us both so hard is because, look, I don't agree with anybody 100% of the time.
I had to think, well, do I even agree with myself?
Yeah, do I agree with you? Exactly. I'm having arguments all the time in my head.
I guarantee you, yeah.
And but I agreed with him on most things, but
sure,
I agreed with him on the big picture. And the big picture
on
is
the goal and the approach. Yes.
Well, the big picture is the goal, the approach, the discussion of ideas,
right?
Not the rhetoric, not memes, not slogans,
right? Yeah,
actually get into the minutia of the topics, and he was doing it, on college campuses, where that hasn't been allowed the last 20 years.
Well,
and he went right into it.
Yeah, he really did. I mean, 2012 was about the time that Jerry Seinfeld said, I can't do campuses anymore because of the sentiment on campuses. I can't do campuses. A young Charlie Kirk was saying, yeah, we're going to take this and we're going to take it to the campuses because I'm one of them. I was a student on campus, and I'm going to talk to these people in my age group, and we're going to have these discussions. Think about that. Things were escalating, and yet he walked toward it.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Did you know that up to half of all major engine failures are due to poor cooling system maintenance? That's a lot of downtime and can cost drivers big. You expect a lot from your engine, which is why the cooling system must be a part of your maintenance routine. Here's a tip to keep your cooling system in shape and your engine running smooth. Make sure the system is properly filled with coolant at every PM interval and during pre- and post-trip inspections. Underfilling the cooling system can cause corrosion and your engine to overheat. Coolant is also used to keep DEF tanks thawed in the winter. If you notice unusually low coolant levels, be sure to have your cooling system inspected by a professional technician.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, talking about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I've seen a lot of the media calling him a conservative influencer or a Trump influencer. Mm-hmm. He was there before Trump.
Oh yeah.
Let's make sure we separate him from the influencers who have just gotten aboard the last couple of years.
His mission did not begin in 2024 or even in 2016. It had already been rolling by the time 2016 came around. It's interesting that in 2012, it was the day after the 2012 election when then Donald Trump, he wasn't president yet, decided he wanted to probably jump in at some point and legally got the rights to make America great again. He filed for the rights the day after the election in 2012, and in 2012, that's also when Charlie Kirk was starting Turning Point. And it's, again, you think about that, and that's I think that's an important distinction that you just made, because it doesn't tell the entire picture, and it's a very big picture when it comes to the mission of Charlie Kirk.
From the Uniden America Studios.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. I'm Eric. You and I talked about it just briefly because it's not what I want to focus on tonight. We may in future shows, but when you go on social media and you see the number of people that are willing to actually promote publicly that they're happy that somebody was assassinated.
Yeah, I cannot and will never be able to understand that mindset.
Yeah. Well, the only thing it comes from is pure hate.
Yes.
You and I have said it before, and this is what I loved about Charlie Kirk, and this is why I know it hit us, because I believe, even though I never met him, watching him at the college campuses, he was an optimistic, positive person who wanted to project love to everybody, even if he disagreed with them. It's exactly what the American spirit is supposed to be about.
You could see it. You could see it if you just paid attention for any time at all. You could see that Charlie had joy in his heart. And what you see from these people on social media, and you're right, we won't spend too much time because
we may on future shows because just like
I think over the years, because we've kind of covered it, but it's one more example. And again, it goes back to when you don't value life. This would be tragic regardless of who the person is and what their political affiliation was. My heart would be broken.
Well,
just the same if it were somebody on the left.
But it also, you and I have said many times that, and it's our policy, we love hearing what those that disagree with us have to say.
Yeah.
We love playing the audio cuts from liberal politicians. We love it. The last thing we want to do is to ever shut them up. I don't want to shut anybody up. You and I probably are as close to First Amendment absolutionists as you can get.
Yeah.
And we've said this for the longest time, is that, and that's why I've said in future shows, we'll play some of the audio out there, just like we did with Brian Thompson, because it's important that people know.
Yeah.
That people know what others, what people think, what the opposition actually think. It's important to know the hate. Even if I hear that the hate in other people, just like Charlie Kirk, it doesn't make me want to hate.
Right.
Nothing is going to make me hate.
Right. Yeah.
No other person, because somebody else.
Charlie carried that joy with him at all times, and we know that he experienced that hate
every day.
It was coming at him every single day. And like you said, we have that same approach. Because I'm not capable of it. I'm just not. As a person, I'm not. I can get frustrated, but I can get frustrated with people I agree with. We all get frustrated with family members from time to time. It doesn't mean you don't love them.
Well, look, being frustrated or being passionate about your cause and getting angry about your cause is not hate.
It's actually part of the process.
Right.
If your conviction, it should always be a thoughtful approach. You and I don't look for kumbaya moments. But civil discussions is something that hasn't happened. Think about this. Not only was Charlie going to these campuses, again, walking into the fire, as they say, but he was doing it at a time when the left had abandoned discussions. That's, it would probably happen maybe a few years before that, and that's what he saw. And it's like, wait a minute, where are the discussions on the ideas? Where are these discussions? Because the left, you and I know it. Everybody, our listeners know it. They don't want to have these discussions, but he saw this opportunity. Again, this had to happen at this right moment with the right person, and that was Charlie Kirk in 2012, to say, no, the discussions can be had. And you know what? I've got a microphone. I'm going to welcome others that disagree with me to the microphone in an open setting.
Well, you saw that Matthew Dowd got fired from MSNBC
yes.
for what he had to say, because of the hateful comments. Tell me a hateful comment from Charlie Kirk.
That's it. What he's saying, these hate-filled comments. If you listen to
that promoting marriage,
when he talked to the transgender earlier, the audio cut that you play, I'm sure that people on the far left would say, "Oh, that's filled with hate." It's not. And most of us know that it's not. It came from a place, I believe, of love. Quite the opposite.
Right.
But what the far left cannot have is this open discussion. And why is that? Because Charlie Kirk made a difference.
I do believe, and this is just from my now 36 years of debating and almost 50 years of paying attention as to what's going on. We've talked about this before. We used to discuss the actual issues.
Right.
Now it's trying to explain what the truth is.
Exactly.
We'll still explain why we believe something is wrong or right, but the opposition no longer wishes to have that discussion.
Right.
One of the most perfect examples, which is why we play it, is Josh Hawley going back and forth with the Berkeley professor on the radical transgender movement, which, again, is huge on college campuses. And Charlie Kirk would bring that up all the time because it became on the left a debate they didn't think they could win, so they wanted to shut down all debate.
Yeah.
And think about this, and we've talked about this so many times before. The last thing we want to do is ever shut up anybody on the left. I don't want to shut up the people that are now, cheering because Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I don't want them shut up. I don't want them to shut up because I want people to know how other people think. And the only way you can do that is in a free society. And so when you have somebody like Charlie Kirk who would go on the campuses, you get to know somebody's character by how they debate with young people. And the left views young people. We've seen it. Yeah. We need to make sure you can only have one mindset on a college campus. You need to be brainwashed. Well, you can't really brainwash them. The polling that just came out that we did just 3 weeks ago, that said the majority of kids on college campuses, the vast majority, even Democrats, young students, young people that consider themselves liberal, hear a lot of stuff from the professors and say, we're just not going to argue with them because we're going to get lower grades, so we don't believe what they're saying. Right. We're not as radical as they are at all, but we know that we know that if we argue with them, that could get us kicked out of class.
Yeah.
Young people aren't stupid. Young people can look at BS. If you wonder why you've got the 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, you're moving more to the right, that's because their viewpoints, so many of them have been oppressed, not even viewpoints, their questions have been oppressed. You can't even ask the question.
No, you can't.
Well, I'm trying to figure out which one. You can't do that. There's only one right. It's this. And if you don't like it, well, this is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
We saw that on the radical transgender movement with the Ivy League female swimmers. Mm-hmm. These were college. Riley Gaines was a college girl. Mm-hmm. These are all college girls, and they're telling them if you don't agree that a male should swim against you, we'll destroy your life.
Oh, yeah.
Understand what's going on at the college campuses today. You need to understand that, and then you need to know what Charlie Kirk actually walked into and has been doing it since he was 18. This isn't somebody I'm trying to think of. Oh, I just can't think of the guy's name. Oh, I got mind blank here at the moment. The guy used to speak at college campuses, but he was older, and he used to be a liberal and then came around. But when he was speaking on college campuses, he was in his probably 40s and 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk was one of them when he started.
Yeah.
He was their age.
Yes.
And so there was a natural, well, who was this guy?
Right.
Wow. And to be able to go, and we'll play some of the audio
and
coming up.
it's important for sensibilities because, I'm 59 going on 90 from the way I feel. But it's important that, again, someone at that time of that mindset, in that moment, decided to take that on. That is unique. That is extremely unique because, you can see there's some of us older guys out there that, might talk to somebody or might, do a radio show, whatever they're doing. But the sensibilities, he was keen on the sensibilities. Did you remember?
David Horowitz.
Yes, Horowitz. Yeah. Yes.
But he was older when he was older when he. I just popped into my mind. I just want to make sure I didn't forget. But he was older when he started doing it.
Right.
Kirk, 18.
And the sensibilities, he knew the sensibilities. He knew what the concerns would be. Again, he had been on the campus, but he was part of those were his peers. Even at 31, still in that mindset of just having that discussion with them. And it's important to remember, it didn't get easier since 2012.
No, it's gotten harder. Yeah.
It got incredibly more difficult.
And that was,
and he did it anyway.
The first thing with me and oh my gosh, couple of weeks going to be 70.
Oh, that's right. That's coming up.
Yeah, my 70th is
I'm
coming up
hit
in a couple
60
of weeks.
in a few months. Yeah.
First thing I thought, I said, and it was not as an insult. My first thought, it was just how young he is. I said, "Oh my gosh." Yeah. My first thought was, he's a baby.
Yeah.
Somebody my age. He's a. And I want to be very careful with that because that was not meant as an insult. It was meant just because of my age. And I very quickly, I told this story, and being 31 years old, I went to Florida for a couple of days, a couple of weeks ago. And I went specifically to go see the gravestone of my old radio partner when I worked in Florida. I was there for his funeral in '88. But I always wanted to go back, and I did see his gravestone on the internet. And Mark Stone was his name. And he was a radio partner, huge influence in my life. And I always wanted to go back. And I went back and I found it was tough to find it, but I found it. And I wanted to do that because he was so young when he died. And there was so much potential that he had.
Yeah.
And I realized I had, 37 years that he didn't have. And I wanted to just feel the gratitude that I've had what he didn't have, and also in a way just say to him, do I have your approval?
Right.
And so that's been sitting in my mind, somebody who, and he died at age 30.
Right.
My old co-host, Mark, that was in rock radio.
Yeah.
And so when I saw Charlie Kirk and when I saw the news yesterday, I mean, it just was, I just went, my God, he's a baby.
I mean,
and now, that isn't what was in his mind. He was a full-fledged adult.
Well, in his 31 years, accomplishing
what he accomplished was unbelievable.
Gosh,
yeah. When he was born, I was 4 years already doing talk radio, and he started when he died at 31. I didn't even get into talk radio till I was would it be 34?
Yeah.
And what he accomplished and how he could articulate, mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. What he could do.
Yeah.
No college education.
Right.
Didn't go to college.
Right. Very smart. Very
Just
bright.
Amazing. Such a huge loss. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. 866-90 Red Eye. Such a sad day. I guess I would say conservative influencer. I guess would be the title for him. I know,
but true influencer. I think the word influencer sometimes is thrown around that people have a big following, but he actually got the job done. If you think about it, right? He earned the word influencer. A lot of people have a lot of people following them, which is great. That's wonderful. Nothing against them, but in terms of influencing, changing hearts and minds.
Well,
I think there's a potential that will go on for years. His legacy.
The correct way would be, I think, to say is conservative commentator.
Yeah,
because that's what he was, just in a different way.
Sure.
Conservative leader.
Yes.
Especially with young people.
Yes.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here, as always. I want to play some audio. First, this from John Solomon, who says the FBI has a few hot leads, and then says something else, too, which is really interesting from what he hears from his sources. This came out a few hours ago.
And we all lost, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, we lost something important in America today. But the case goes on. The investigation goes on. There's a lot of piecing of evidence together. We don't have a shooter tonight. We have a couple leads, a couple people that were released that probably aren't the shooter. There's a couple hot leads. There's a little bit of foreign intelligence. And I think over the next couple of days, we will learn a lot more. And hopefully we will bring to justice the evil person who did what they did to Charlie today.
Don't know what that means. A little bit of foreign intelligence. Does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Foreign intelligence is helping you? Foreign intelligence was involved in this?
So the story got out also, or I don't know, didn't get out. It just, the story appeared, and I'm trying to, the timeline is kind of blurry on it. Trying to remember, it was, I think, into the evening by that time that the Department of Homeland Security was involved in the investigation. And it sounded like they were just lending manpower. And I thought, okay, that would be logical. All hands on deck if someone is on the loose. If you're searching, you need as much manpower as you can get. But I'm interested to see what might develop based on what John Solomon, what we just heard from him.
Here's Scott Jennings from CNN last night.
Well, a couple things. Number one, I think people are already saying things they shouldn't be saying. Joe Walsh is a good example of that.
What did you know?
I mean, today, a 31-year-old father of two and a husband is dead. There's really nothing more to say than this is unacceptable and it's wrong. There's no both sidesing it. A man is dead. And so that's number one. I've heard J.B. Pritzker blame Donald Trump today. I don't understand. Our friend is dead, and we've got people out here who just can't stop grinding political axes. And so I fear it's going to keep happening, and we'll keep tabs on it, of course. But my strong advice would be to put your phone down, take a step back, and don't do it. This is we've crossed some kind of line in the country today. I don't know what that looks like on the other side. People are gutted, people are angry, people are in shock. What was Charlie Kirk's sin? He went on a college campus to debate people about ideas. He wasn't a violent person. He engaged in rhetoric and speech and debate. That's the essence of American political culture. And now he's dead. And so You know, Jake, I got to tell you, man, some people have it in them to do the right thing and some people don't. And I'm afraid in the aftermath of this, I mean, we've seen members of Congress nearly assassinated. We've seen the president nearly assassinated. Charlie is dead. Everybody needs to take stock of their own thoughts right now and think before they speak is my strong advice.
Yeah. Scott Jennings, I think that was last night. So is when he had that to say. Let's head to you. Let's go to Tracy in Nashville, Tennessee. Tracy, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Yeah, thank you. I hate to be talking to y'all under these conditions, but when I was a kid growing up, I graduated from high school in 85. I used to, I'm kind of a weird guy, but I used to watch a show called Firing Line.
Yeah, William Buckley.
Do you remember that show?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Do you remember the conservative gentleman who used to be on it?
He'd have a number of guests.
I'm having a...
Are you talking about Buckley?
William F. Buckley Jr. William F. Buckley Jr.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. I said that. I said
you might not have heard that.
Yeah,
but, Gary had mentioned Buckley.
Yeah, I said William Buckley, and you said, well, then the conservative guy that was on, I thought you were talking about someone else. William Buckley.
So my regular speaker's not real good. I got poor hearing anyway.
Nope.
But anyway, William F. Buckley Jr. used to do the same thing. He used to go to campuses, and people would start dressing like him, and he would speak on campuses. But here's my main point. That Firing Line show started sometime in the 70s, went up into the 80s. He would sit across from the table from people who he didn't agree with, and they would have a civil discussion. Same thing.
Yeah.
And we can't do that anymore.
Well, you can do it. There's a danger in doing it because the left doesn't want debate. Let me tell you this before we go any further on it. And thanks you so much for your call.
Thank you.
When I was younger, I mean, even when before I even became a talk show host, in the back of my mind, one of my goals I always wanted to do. Buckley used to hold he'd have a party at his house, and there's just people sitting around talking about politics and probably smoking cigars and having cocktails. I wanted to be part of that.
Yeah.
So when you bring that up, it was just like discussing ideas. To me, I was always fascinated with discussing ideas. One of the things that also that drove me back in the late 70s and then into the 80s, and I had not yet become a radio talk show host, was when Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell used to debate the left all the time, especially on economics.
Yeah.
Those are some of the most fun things. We've played the Milton Friedman when he was on with
Donahue.
I almost said Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
Phil was like, that would have been interesting. When he was on with Donahue, and a lot of times those were debates, but it was very, very civil. It was completely civil, and when you had those old debates with Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell, they'd have to bring on union leaders, and interesting. I may go back and watch because I have the entire video. Well, do I have the entire video series, or I think I gave it to somebody who gave it to somebody else. I don't think I got it back, but I can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's all on YouTube now.
The entire video series on tariffs,
right?
Because that was just I was watching that I was in my 30s. I mean, that goes back probably 40 years, maybe even longer than 40 years ago, when those debates were going on about tariffs that they were having. But they were fascinating debates that went on. Understand, though, the reason that it's happening. Back then, the left would even debate what they believed on the issues. Then, they would debate the issues, and you could find common ground. You would debate what the truth is.
Yeah.
The issue would be a truth, and then you'd give your opinion on it. Today, you debate what the truth is.
Well, and that was my point earlier. If you think about what Charlie Kirk did in 2012, it was even happening then. I mean, the left wanted to abandon debate. They didn't want to have the debate. It's even more so today. But he was insisting, let's have the debate, and let's have it not on, inside of a studio. Let's go to the campuses. Let's go out there in an open setting and have a debate with real live people. And these are mostly people that are not politically on his side. So when he saw that opportunity, you and I have said we'd love to have an actual debate. But it's not that. What we do here is not that, and hasn't been that for a long time. We come in, and our show prep is mainly weeding through BS, an entire sea of lies and untruths. And we asked the question multiple times over the years. I'll ask it again. Why can't you talk about what you believe in openly?
Well, it's fascinating because for years, they don't say it much anymore. Remember when the left used to say, we need to have a debate on race?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Right.
What in the hell are you talking about? We're willing to have a debate on race any day of the week. You're not willing to have the debate on it.
And remember Eric Holder said at one point, former AG under Obama, people don't want to have that debate.
We pounded on him. You don't want to have the debate.
Well, and nobody on the left wants to have a debate.
Yeah. And
or discussion.
Now, I remember when I first became a radio talk show host in '89, I remember some of the advice I got: stay away from religion and race.
Yeah.
Why?
Right. Yeah.
If my job was back to being a top 40 radio DJ, let's talk about what Madonna's doing. Well, yes, that'd be good advice for my boss to give me. Look, really don't get into politics. Just hype up, the great relationship that Sean Penn is having, with Madonna, and what a wonderful life.
Time ago.
What a wonderful life that's going to be, and they'll be married for 70 years.
Keep in mind, Gary, we're the station that cares.
Yeah, that'd be good advice. But as soon as somebody said, well, okay, Gary, you've got to, because my career did not start because I wanted to do it. Charlie Kirk at 18 wanted to be involved in the arena of ideas.
Right.
That was the last thought in my mind when I was in my 20s.
Right.
That's not what I wanted to do. And I was, as I've said many times before, it was, God rest her soul, my old boss, Sue, who said, I was a station manager doing the morning show, but it was a lighthearted, full service kind of morning show. How's everybody doing? And by that time, who would have been in the, did you hear? Donny Osmond has a new record. And they played it, and nobody knew who the artist was.
I was at one of those radio stations that played it. Yeah.
Okay, you remember it.
Yeah.
And so... but as soon as they said,
and we've had Donnie on before,
great interview, great interview,
just great
interview.
Yeah.
And I said before, we're not by saying that I wasn't insulting him.
No. It's just the difference in what
just
the
a
job
difference.
was.
Remember when he was on, when we
Right.
talked to him, the first thing I said, look, I'm so impressed with, because I love how people adapt. I don't care what you do, but how he adapted to continue his career.
Fascinating.
Because you think about it, and I remember telling him on the air, I said, when you start out with sweet and innocent, where the hell do you go from there? Right. But I was fascinated by how he kept reinventing himself. But when I was forced to be a radio talk show host, at that point, when somebody told me, well, we advise, no, get away. If you're telling me I got to be a talk show host, anything's open. I'm going to give my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, I was scared because I was like, okay, I'm going to give my opinion if I know I've got everything backed up.
Right.
And it took me a while to get to that point where it's like, okay, I actually know what the issues are now and everything else. But I never wanted to be limited on what I could, talk about. And we have said so many times that we want to know what the left has to say, but the left doesn't want to know what we have to say. Why is that?
Right.
Why is that? On this day when free speech and debate is so important
and readily available in terms of devices and everything else, platforms.
Right. Why does the right want to know what the left has to say, but the left wants complete censoring of the right and doesn't even want questions on what they believe?
Right.
Why is that? Why is that?
They can't win on the issues.
They can't win on the issues. And when you want power and control and you can't win on the issues, what does that create in a human being? I believe it creates hate. Because if you want power and control and you can't convince the masses, that creates, I believe, hate in people. Because what are your options if you can't win in the arena of ideas?
Well, and then when you've been indoctrinated and you're at that point of, beyond the point of, no return, and you're fully invested, being told you're wrong, or maybe even learning that you're wrong, probably upsets you quite a bit. When you fully invest into something and then find out. I mean, we see it with, like, Michael Rappaport. He was a liberal for the longest time and then said, then I found out they were lying about Charlottesville. And then I found out they were lying about this and this and this. And it changed his point of view. He did his own homework. If you think about what Charlie Kirk did at the age of 18, he knew he could talk to his peers and have a discussion. And it was an open discussion and open debate. And he knew there was potential there. If you think about, when I was 18, starting radio, I was a country DJ. I was on the air. You didn't know it, but I had hair down to my belt and was wearing Ozzy Osbourne T-shirts while playing George Strait records. I can't imagine thinking to myself, I need to go to college campuses and change some minds. Think about how huge, how massive of an endeavor that is. And then think about, again, in that age group today, they seem less inclined to want to do any of that that's going to require work. But he was always up for the job.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Like the chief financial officer of any company, you have to be concerned about rising costs, especially without increases in revenue. Trying to reduce costs, let alone make sense of them, can be a complicated task. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. A penny saved could be $1,000 earned. Saving just 1 penny per mile over 100,000 miles driven annually will deliver $1,000 to the bottom line at the end of the year. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. You had when I look at what Charlie Kirk actually did, and what he's most well known for, and that is being on the college campuses. He went in for 13 years.
Yeah,
he went into the belly of the beast. The belly of the beast wanted to censor any type of conservative thought. We know that's true.
And it was getting more radical by the moment.
Right. Even if you're on the left.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the radical transgender movement because it's something that he was on. And one of the things that the left says, well, he had hate speech against them. No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
And then bringing up again about some of these mass shootings and the whole transgender thing, there's a legitimate question there. And that question was actually, as we said yesterday, created by the left.
Right.
The left created the question about mental health and transgenders.
Right.
They created it in order to stop the right from debating the issue.
Right.
We'll get to that coming up.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Scott Jennings said when we played the audio last hour, he said, you know, what was his sin? What was Charlie Kirk's sin?
Right.
Well, I can tell you what his sin is to many on the left, because if you go through it, if you sit there and we're not going to do it today, we will do it. I've marked down a bunch of different responses from the left, absolutely vicious, and the questions. Even Cam Higby's been out there, you know, getting video, asking questions.
Right.
Forgot where he was. He was attacked last night. And remember, we covered him, just so people know who he is. We covered him. Was the college riots in Los Angeles?
Yep.
That was going on a couple of years ago.
Right.
And he's been out there asking questions, and he got beat up last night, asking different questions. So it's and one of the questions, and you've got more people out there, independent reporters, saying, what do you think about Charlie Kirk? Would you have shot him? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Why? Because he's a Nazi. Why? Because he is. They can't even tell you why. They don't even know why.
Right.
Because what, as you said, Scott Jennings said, what's his sin?
Right.
You know, what's his sin? He believes in traditional marriage.
He's religious.
He's religious. He believes that and hopes you have a great and wonderful family life.
Right.
He thinks that you have a better life if you have kids and a spouse.
Right.
He believes you have a better life if you commit yourself to one person for life.
Right.
Well, we can't have that, can we? What is, and I think that was a great question that he brought up. So then you get, because it always comes back to the radical transgender movement. That's what it comes back to him, because he's really big in talking about that particular issue. And when he brought up, for example, asking the question between the mass shootings and the number of transgenders that have been involved in it and the mental health, and if you say that, you are viewed by the left as transphobic for even saying that there's a mental health problem.
Yeah.
That needs to be considered and questioned.
Yeah.
And that's horrible that you did that. Well, who came up with that?
Yeah, where did that come from?
Where did that come from? Did the right bring that up? Did the right bring up in the radical transgender movement when they talk about transgenders, the mental health issues? No, the left did. And the perfect example, it is the perfect example. We have more than that one. But the perfect example, as we said yesterday, it's really interesting because we brought this up on yesterday's show, probably right about this time. And we, in discussing it, we said, where does that come from? It comes from the left. Because when you start asking questions, as Josh Hawley did back like 3 years ago to that Berkeley professor, and said, well, could you explain it to me? You know, what is the whole... And she said, well, this line of questioning is transphobic. He goes, what do you mean? I'm asking questions.
Right.
And she said, well, do you believe that men can have babies? And he said, well, no, men can't have babies. Well, see, that's transphobic right there, and that's violent speech. You're promoting violence. What do you mean I'm promoting violence? Well, because transgenders have a much greater rate of attempting suicide. Well, then what you're saying is, you are saying, as a professor at Berkeley, that transgenders have a much greater the odds are much greater that they will commit suicide than any other demographic.
You're talking about a mental health crisis
right
at that point.
You're talking about a mental health crisis.
Everything else should stop.
And you're saying that if you even ask questions about it, they'll commit suicide.
Right. Why are you not greatly concerned about addressing the mental health crisis?
Right.
And, of course, she wasn't. What she wanted to do was shut down the conversation.
They didn't want the debate because they can't back it up. And that's why we are where we are today. You know, it just nothing makes sense.
No.
You know, the entire crime problem, nothing makes sense.
Nope.
You know, there are certain things that are self-evident to people. And when the debate comes to the fact that you are debating things that are self-evident to the vast majority of people, well, yeah, we need more police. We need to put people in jail. Think about this. We talked about this last week. Incarceration isn't going to solve the problem. The hell it ain't. Of course it is.
Yeah, it is.
If you have more people in jail, they're not going to be out committing crimes on the street.
Exactly.
It was the same thing with illegal immigrants. Well, illegal immigrants per capita don't commit as much as citizens, so they should get to stay. Well, no, because there's nothing you can do about citizens. If they're illegal and they're not in the country, then that doesn't happen. You can't kick citizens out. You can illegal immigrants.
Yep.
There seems to be no coherent mindset. And so you ask the question, why? Things that are self-evident, the left is trying to defend. They can't do it. They know they can't convince the public. That's why it's an 80-20 issue.
Yep.
You see coming out of the college campuses, the polling that was done about 3 weeks ago that said even the majority of Democrats don't feel like they can say anything on campus because the professors are so incredibly radical. The administration is so incredibly radical that they just say, yeah, whatever, yeah, whatever, yeah, whatever. They don't buy into it.
Go along to get by because you don't want to be thrown out. You don't want to cause a scene and get thrown out of the class or fail the class, ultimately.
And so you have an entire ideology that's based on rejecting things that are self-evident, on accusing the other side of doing what they have actually proposed. And that is, again, in the radical transgender movement, because that's one of the things for Charlie Kirk that they were saying.
Yeah.
He's hateful and he's transphobic. What does that even mean?
Right.
Which side is the one that led the charge that transgenders have a much greater rate of suicide, so you can't upset them at all? Well, there's a mental health crisis there.
Yes.
And so when then Charlie Kirk brought that up, and many others did, we did, it's something to be to look into, brings up the mental health crisis of a greater number of self-identified transgenders committing mass murders, and brings up the mental health question. He's transphobic and out of line. Well, he didn't create that argument. The left created that argument.
And didn't want to, even in the setting with Josh Hawley, didn't want to even address it. Because you and I said, look, if we're in that setting right there, wait. You just said something very important here. You just pointed out a massive mental health crisis in that community. How's that not being addressed by everybody?
Right.
And no, you can't talk about it because then you're going to make it worse. Actually, she just didn't want to have the discussion.
Well, that's what happens when, because I think that's one of the most important things that Charlie Kirk brought to the debate stage was, I don't hate. It's the same thing that we believe. And that's why it hit us so hard yesterday. It hit both of us really, really hard because we're always looking to, not that we're going to agree on every issue, the day-to-day issues, but on the big picture of where we should be as a country on free speech and debate. We're as close as you could possibly get. And to have that gone now, it's not going to be gone permanently, but to have that voice and that soul of a human being murdered when he's exactly what we're supposed to have in this country.
Well,
that's what we're supposed to have in this constitutional republic. It's what we were built on.
I believe that turning point is likely, and the influence there, and those who are conservative and feeling this terrific, incredible loss here are going to carry on that mission statement. But the difference is the shoes are so big to fill because, again, you're talking about the right person at the right time. And now you could add to that, up until yesterday, the right level of experience of doing that particular job over and over. It's hard to recreate. Not that it shouldn't be tried. In fact, it's going to require multiple people to fill those shoes. But it is so unique, so incredibly unique. It's part of what makes it such a tremendous loss for the nation. These were discussions, conversations. And you could disagree. But the idea of not having those and then the promotion of violence and then, of course, now carrying out that violence, not the first time we've seen it. But you look at that table and say, how do you get back to that table of having those discussions? Charlie's legacy will be that he made a difference already. And I do believe there's great potential here.
Yes, he has. Yes.
That will actually increase. You and I talked about Milton Friedman. Well, Milton Friedman has been gone for years, but he's a modern-day influencer because everything that he said, his ideas that he promoted are still there. I hope and pray that's the case with Charlie, especially with that group that he sought out to have those conversations with.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Just a horrible day yesterday. Still looking to see if there's any news on the murderer, the person of interest, whatever they call it. It's interesting where you see now person of interest, and I go, oh, you mean suspect? It's
right.
Like, oh, you can't say that anymore.
Can't say that anymore after Richard Jewell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but nothing as of yet. And I guess the question would be, because it's out there all over the place, that this sure does look like a professional hit. You know?
Yeah.
Again, you see a lot of that out there. What's true or not, and to speculate really gets you nowhere. It's interesting, though, John Solomon saying his sources talk about foreign intelligence. Doesn't get into specifics of it, but says that they do have persons of interest that they're looking at right now, and then mention foreign intelligence.
Yeah, we don't know what that means.
We don't know what that means. But.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've been watching John Solomon's X page to see if there's any updates on that. Of course, we're watching all the breaking news if there's any development on that. But the back and forth during the afternoon and evening, they have a person of interest in custody, and then that person is released, and then that happened again later. And again, for those of us that aren't there and we're just basically watching the news and watching these reports, it's hard to understand. But if you think about that setting, again, it's wide open. It's part of what Charlie wanted, that wide open approach, that be able to have a conversation with real people at events like what occurred yesterday. And it's unbelievably heartbreaking how it ended. It's just mind-boggling. A voice silenced, I would say silenced temporarily, because I think his legacy will go on. There's so much that was recorded along the way of those ideas that he promoted. I do believe, like many people over the years that were lost, I do believe he's still going to be an influence. I pray that is the case.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. So, someone responded to some X post, and they included us in it. And it was like, why can't we have world peace? Because there are people that want power and control over you and your wealth.
Yeah.
End of story.
Right.
Evil.
Right.
They wish to covet what you have.
Yep.
It's that simple. You know, we see after something like this horrendous thing, that things have got to change. They're not.
No.
That doesn't come from a positive or negative. That's not a positive or negative response from me. That's just reality of history. Yep. I'm positive where the country is going, but there's always going to be people that will do evil things.
Well, and it highlights the importance of the work done by Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
Even more, because he did make some progress. He was effective again, when we talk about changing hearts and minds and having conversations and everything else, he was successful in that goal and wasn't anywhere near done. He was in his prime, which makes it even more tragic when you think about what his mission statement was with Turning Point. It's incredibly unique, and for us, the older guys, looking at the younger generation and seeing that kind of involvement, because you and I, over the years, we have seen, groups of, young Republicans on campuses and things like that, which is great too. But if you think about the kind of endeavor of a Turning Point at the age of 18, saying, all right, let's take this out there. Let's have some debates. Let's have some back and forth. Let's have the discussion. And the left, more and more along the way, didn't want to have discussions. And he insisted and was very good, excellent at it, very smart, could talk to anyone about anything and never back down. And there are too many, and you're right, when you say, whether things change or will things change, progress is quite often slow, and we don't know if it's, you can never tell if it's going to last. But I'll say this. The responses that we're seeing from radicals, some radicals, online, and again, we'll get into more of that, down the road on other days. You bookmarked a lot of those responses, but you see those radical responses. Well, that's part of why. Because when you look at that mindset, there is no middle ground with someone like that it is full-on radical. I don't know what changes the mind of a person like that, if it can be done. But, again, I hope that the legacy of Charlie Kirk will be that his work, because it's available still today and will be, to people, will have an influence and give thought to individuals, including that group that he wanted to go out and focus on, those young individuals. Again, he made a difference, and I do believe there's great potential that can continue with the work that his work that remains, and others picking up the torch and carrying that with Turning Point and beyond.
Let me say this, because I said, are things going to change? What I mean is that you're not going to stop violence. Violence is going to happen in some form. Can you change some people's minds? Yes. I mean, that's the political process. You look at it in this country. Yes, you may have tribalism where you've got one group over here, one group over there.
Yeah.
We talk about, consistently how the Republican Party has changed, how the Democratic Party has changed, how tribalism has increased in Democrats and is actually, as we've talked about, increased in Republicans, where Republicans who used to stand economically for one thing changed their mind because they support Trump.
Right.
Now, did they believe something, this is on economics, but that's okay. You can do that. But the fact is, people, will change. Sometimes it's based on tribalism. Sometimes it's based on the fact that, if you look at, for example, as we have talked about, Barry Weiss, Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, the thing, I am never going to agree with anybody on the day by day issues.
Right.
I'm never going to agree 100% with anybody. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
It's not possible. We all have different places from where we come from, and how
that's okay.
Well, that's okay. But what I like is the big picture, because I don't care whether you're liberal. I care when we look at what has gone on, and this all fits in because of CBS wanting to buy, Barry Weiss's The Free Press.
Mm-hmm.
She used to be an outright liberal.
Yeah.
Matt Taibbi, liberal. Michael Schellenberger, liberal. What happened to these people? Why did they change?
Right.
Because of the Twitter files. I believe it scared the hell out of them, where they saw what the Democratic Party and Democrats inside of the Trump administration were doing to censor. I think it shocked the hell out of them when they saw what the FBI was doing.
Yeah.
And then what the Biden administration was doing after that. I think it scared the hell out of them. But they also entered the arena of ideas as journalists. They didn't want to argue something that they knew was untrue. They weren't going to argue that a boy can be a girl.
Right.
No, they weren't going to take things that are self-evident to the American public and say, I'm going to take that position just because I feel I have to, like that one author, what the author of The Tipping Point did, where he admitted, I really didn't believe in any of this stuff, but I had to take the opinion. Right. Like the Minneapolis City Council member back in 2020. I've got to take this position because the mob will come after me if I don't.
Yep. She actually said it out loud.
Right. So they're taking positions that they actually don't hold. And so I don't care. Number one, I don't have any hatred in my heart for anybody, and neither do you. There is no hate.
No.
You could never come to me in the street and say, would you want this person dead? Okay, just between us. In private, if you ask me, would I want this person dead? I'm going to tell you no.
No.
I don't want anybody dead. I want everybody to live a great, healthy life. But I'm going to, in the arena of ideas, I am especially going to go after, I'm not going to go after a young college kid. When I did the college classes, I didn't approach it the same way I do to the, as we call them, the elite professional radical lefties.
Yeah.
I approached that in a completely different way. We said it yesterday with so many things where on economics or the radical transgender movement, that there's a lot of ignorance in young people.
Mm-hmm.
When we looked at the socialism poll that was done, where the majority of them, or not a majority, but such a huge, significant portion, plurality, believe that socialism is the way to go. Charlie Kirk said it. He said they actually don't believe in socialism. They don't know what it is.
Right.
That's why I go on the college campus to tell them what it is.
Right.
You think they want to pay more in taxes? Do you think that young people want to be controlled more, is the point that he made? They don't. He saw the opportunity, but he saw it at 18.
Yeah.
For God's sakes, at 18? I was still, let me spend 23 out of my 20, or 23 out of my 24, 14 out of my 15 waking hours thinking, can I ever get a date?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, no, think about that. And generationally, motivations seemingly are very different in that age group. Now, I'm not in that age group, to be clear. But think about in 2012, someone who's 18 saw this opportunity and said, I'm going to take it on. Because you might have had people that agreed with him look at him and say, oh, man, that sounds crazy. That sounds wild. That sounds radical. And it was. It was, except for the drive and the conviction in his heart.
So when you have,
he didn't see it as radical at all. Of course, it was.
Well, when I look at Charlie Kirk, the same respect I have for him, because we're talking about the big picture now, which is the Constitution, freedom of speech, freedom to debate without fear, freedom to debate, to understand and learn how to debate while you're having a cup of coffee with someone. I had something one time, and had nothing to do with, well, it had something to do with the radio station, but this goes back to the 90s. And there was a book on talk radio, and it was about, I didn't know at the time, I ended up working with a couple of people that were in the book. So it was about one of the, I can't remember, it was a talk radio station in the 90s. I think it was probably late 80s, early 90s. I believe Tyler Cox was in it, our old boss. Mark Davis, who we used to work with, was in it. And so there was this book club, and it was a book club in Buffalo. And they said, we are book club, and we'd like you to read the book and then give a report and tell us whether talk radio is really like this or whatever. Well, I read the book. And then the night happens, and, I go to this real nice restaurant. There's probably 200, 300 people there. And I figured I was being set up. I figured I was being set up. Here we go. And I go in there, and I give my book report on the book. Here's what I liked about the book, and I don't remember anything of what I said. And I had no idea we'd be working with some of those people later on in my career. But I gave it, and so time for questions. there wasn't one single question on the book. Everything was attacking me for what I said, things I said on the air. And I said, I actually was laughing because it was like, this is what a great opportunity. And we went on for about an hour. Hour and a half later, I'm in the middle of 30 people who passionately disagreeing with me, and we're sitting there having the greatest meal, probably a glass of wine. We're all having fun. And because I'm dealing with individuals at that particular point. I wasn't dealing, as I said, there's a difference between dealing with people as individuals where you treat them with respect and compassion than there is what we deal with today, which is the elite propaganda, left-wing, professional radicals that we're dealing with every day, and a lot of those you're dealing with in the media. There's a difference when you're doing one-on-one and you're dealing with that.
Right.
And had the greatest time. I remember walking out of there, and I probably outside the restaurant, there were still started with 50 people, and 2 hours later, probably was 1 or 1:32 in the morning, the restaurant was closed. I'm still talking to people.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. That's why it hurt so much, because you and I talked about this when we went on the air, and we looked at each other and said, this really hit me hard. And there was one audio cut that I was playing in the pre-show meeting where he was talking to this girl who had an abortion. And I'll play it coming up here. I just don't have it ready to go. It just popped into my mind now. I started tearing up. Because it was just it was so incredible. And I've had those experiences in my life that is one-on-one with someone. And you and I've had many of those occasions in radio, and many, because I used to do a ton of lunches and dinners when I did the show during the day. It doesn't happen as much anymore just because it's impossible with our shift to do that. But back then I did it all the time for probably it had to be the first 15 years, probably 15, 17 years of talk radio. During my busy season, 3 times a week you're out in the public doing stuff. And it's different from what you do on the air, because you're dealing with everybody one-to-one, and so many of them, I'm not talking about the people that like you. It's when you get into the areas of people that don't agree with you and how you deal with that point. And that's why I know it hit me as hard as it did yesterday, because we're allies like that. And when I look at him, and when I look at, for example, I know there's some things I disagree with him on. I disagree with Charlie Kirk on, just like I do with Barry Weiss and Michael Schellenberger. But when you see them, they're trying to find the truth, and then they're going to take that truth and say, here's my opinion on how we should deal with this, and that's where I'll have my disagreement. But they're not being political activists. I know their motives are pure, even if they come to the wrong conclusion. And I respect them so much. The Barry Weisses and the Michael Schellenbergers, Matt Taibbi's, and there's more out there. I'll even say Bill Maher is gaining my respect. He still has a ways to go, but at least he's heading down that right path.
I'm more willing to listen to Bill Maher today than I had been in the past, is how I can describe it. And again, the approach is different. I can say that about my own father. This Saturday, we'll have our own little talk show in his living room. And much of it, I'm sure, will be about Charlie, but also about the ideas. And my dad has a different experience and has different approaches and ideas. And I have, different experience and different approaches and ideas. But we agree on the issues. We agree on the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
And the mission statement.
Yep. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And, you know, when we talk about, we'll get into more of the whole concept of hate here in just a little bit. But when we're talking about our own experiences, my own experiences with 99.9% of the people that have ever listened to me or me and you or me alone when I was alone or probably you when you were alone, I know that when I meet listeners, and I know that nobody agrees with me 100% of the time.
Right, yeah.
But listeners come up all the time and say, I love the way you do the show. And why?
Yeah.
Most of it, you guys are just so authentic. You tell stories about your family. I love the way that you break down the issues. And I go back to my late Uncle Norm, who was a Democrat his whole life. And before he died, I was so happy. He used to listen to my show every day. My cousins still tell me at our family reunion how much he loved my show, even though he disagreed with me. And he told me one time, he said, you know, you make me think. You make me think, and you explain things where I know you just don't say, this is my position. You explain, and you get into the minutia of why it's your position. Yeah. He said, and when you're done with that, I realize that your position, even if I might disagree with it, comes from a moral base.
Yeah, right.
And so when I look at other people out there in the media, that's what I'm looking for. You don't have to agree with me.
Right.
I don't care. Does it come from a moral base?
Yeah.
Are you kissing butt? Are you practicing tribalism? Or are you truly saying, I'm an autonomous person with my own opinions and I can back them up?
Right. That's all I look for.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. The other thing is, you know, with Charlie Kirk, is he always wanted to be happy and positive, even at these debates where people vehemently disagreed with him. It's something that you and I have experienced being in talk radio as long as we have. And it hasn't happened in such a long time, but we used to get, you guys are too happy.
Yeah.
You're too happy.
Yeah.
You need to be angrier all the time.
Yeah.
And we've said it before. Number one, I'm never going to say, nobody's going to make me hate, because they couldn't make me hate.
Right.
It's not how I was built. It's not how I was raised. It's not what I believe in my faith. None of it. But that's not even it. I don't hate because I'm not supposed to. I don't hate because it's not a part of who I am.
Right. I
just don't do it. And I think that when you hate, it's like when we see the liberals that are going insane and they're just angry and just furious. Would you want to live that life?
I can't imagine living in that place. You know, you and I were just talking off the air. As we grow older, you deal with more and more things, and family and lots of things going on in this job. Of course, covering a number of just tragic events and things and very crazy things in the news. And so it can be, you know, there's a lot that's going on at any given moment. What I greatly admire about who Charlie Kirk was that joy was ever present. And when you share that with people, when you're putting that joy on display, right? When it shows, and it means you truly have that in your heart, but it's also a degree of empathy in that you want to share that with others in hopes of improving their day or life. That, you know, the old adage that a smile is contagious, or maybe they learn something that improves their life, or they learn that somebody else that they don't even know actually cares about them or just wants to have an actual discussion with them, while many don't. And I look at that. The one video of Charlie's daughter running up on the set of Fox News and jumping into his lap. That as a parent, especially, now my kids are all adults. I have grandkids now, but I adore children. That joy that came from Charlie being a husband and father and Christian, and then doing what he did at Turning Point, the joy of the work, of the satisfaction of the work. He seemed to be more joyful as life went on, and it's something to admire. It's something that when that happens, that person becomes a beacon.
And that's one of the things we discussed this in the last couple of weeks. Why are people happy?
Right.
And we read an article from a clinical psychologist on it. I believe Jordan Peterson's also addressed this. Why are we always happy? I get this all the time from everybody I know, especially people that become, if I met somebody 5 years ago and they become a good friend of mine today, they're always blown away. They always say, "You're never sad. You're never angry. You're always happy." And they say, "How do you do it?" And I went, you want me to analyze? Okay, you want me to analyze why I'm always happy? All right. And I've thought about it over the years, and it's one thing: gratitude.
Yeah.
I can't believe. I can't believe the opportunities that I've had. I have gratitude that I'm healthy. I have gratitude that I grew up in the United States of America.
Yeah.
I'll passionately argue. I don't like I have to convince people. I'll actually passionately argue about things, and sometimes I may get angry. But there's nothing wrong with anger. If anger is justified, that's fine. But there's a difference between passionate and angry because you believe there's a great unfairness being done, than your whole life raging about everything. And you and I have broken that down as best we can with the left through our observations and come to the conclusion, well, if you believe in identity politics and you don't judge people as individuals, there's a problem right there with you.
Yeah.
That's a huge character flaw.
Right.
If you're going to judge other people by the group that they're in, if you're going to deny reality, and we use the radical transgender movement for that, however you got to that point, it's a mystery to a lot of us. Well, how do you get to that point of just completely denying reality? It's like, don't know. Mm-hmm. But they're there, and they seem awfully angry that they're denying reality.
Yeah.
They're just furious. Yeah. I'm not furious if you don't agree with me. I don't hate you if you don't agree with me. And most conservatives don't. And I think that's one of the greatest lessons that Charlie Kirk did for young people. Right. Said, look, be passionate. Don't hate anybody.
Right.
Don't hate. Love everybody.
And it's okay to disagree.
But he didn't just say it to them. They saw it in his behavior and his actions.
That's the difference.
And he made it clear. Come out. I love people being fans of. I know you all don't agree with me, but you like the way that I present it. And even if you don't agree with me, at least you know exactly how I got to my position. It's not based on a slogan.
Right.
Not based on a meme. Not based on for the old people like me, a bumper sticker.
Right.
It's based on, I believe this because of this, and this. And so people may disagree with you and at times get irked and go, I don't agree, but they don't hate you. They said they're inspired by you. And Charlie Kirk, if you saw some of the people, and they were all young women that I saw yesterday first interviewed, they were in tears.
Yeah.
The big, some of the biggest supporters we We just love him. We love him so much. People are drawn to great, positive, happy personalities,
strong hearts,
with strong hearts, strong souls, who are pretty darn smart and will educate you and explain to you things that are happening in life, especially when you are part of an institution where, how much choice do you really have to go to college? You're 18, your parents tell you, you're going. Are you really taking what you want? And somebody comes and opens up your mind that anything is possible for you with your mind. Maybe not physically. We all can't play in the NBA. But what is open to us if you use your mind correctly? Charlie Kirk did that.
It's interesting that you mentioned happiness. Yesterday, hours before everything unfolded, I was out running errands, and I hit the drive-thru. It was noon. I hadn't eaten in probably 12 hours. I don't know. And I'd been working in the yard, and I was like, okay, I'll just grab, something here. And the guy on the speaker, hey, what would you like today? I'm thinking, well, I'll take a number 9 with a medium drink. Great. I'll see you around the corner, my friend. And I go around, and the guy at the window, he goes, there he is. And he looks at me, he goes, there he is. I'm thinking, oh, no, what did I do? Because he had the best attitude.
You're taken back a little bit by it, aren't you?
Yes. And I hand him, I hand him my card, my method of payment. And then he does that, and then he swipes that, and grabs the receipt and the card, and he goes, you look happy. And I didn't notice the huge smile that he put on my face. And I said, I am happy. Thanks to you. I said, you look happy. He goes, couple of happy guys. I said, it's a beautiful day. And it was one of those exchanges. When he said that to me, he just looked in my eye as he's handing me the receipt, and he goes, you look happy. I didn't even notice that I was smiling, but it was his attitude. And again, that comes from a place of empathy. It's not just wanting to perform in that role. It's not just wanting to get through that moment. When you see it consistently, like you did from the heart of Charlie Kirk.
You brought it up during the break. You're just saying, we, as you get older, you prefaced the beginning of this segment with it. You said we were talking about coping. How do you cope? With my dad, it's tough to see my dad go downhill. It's very, very tough.
Yeah.
What's got me through that? What got me through my mom's death? What got me through deaths of other people is what I would know they would want me to be.
Right.
My mother, I know exactly don't you dare grieve for me too long. I know exactly what she'd say. You need to get on with your life, and you need to be happy. And I know that's what she would think. And my father, and at times, yesterday he was good. Sometimes he's gone. His mind is just gone, and it's like I may never go on for a week. I may never get back to see his brain again. Those are tough times. The only reason I can cope with it is because I know what he would want me to do, because he and my mom lived that life, coming out of the Depression and not having nothing and struggling for everything. And my father working 3 jobs, always laughing, always happy.
Yeah.
And that was how I was brought up. What is it that makes people not happy? Is it the environment that they grow up in? And it's somebody like Charlie Kirk that was out there promoting, think about it, he was promoting happiness. And he talked about it. Life, liberty, life's the most important one. He would use that with abortion, liberty, but the pursuit of happiness. You got to be happy. Remember, it's in the Declaration of Independence, the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
You've got to pursue happiness.
Well,
what good
the
is
man
it?
at that drive-thru yesterday, you just talked about it, that gratitude.
Yeah.
He loved where he was in that moment. And I could tell it was genuine. You know when it is. And it was with Charlie. And that's, and that's another thing, because I've had there's a relative that has dealt with clinical depression. And he and I had a discussion one time, a long discussion. And he said to me, he goes, but you know what? One day I said to myself, every day I need to get up and choose joy and happiness. I need to choose that. For him, it being clinical, it may be a very different approach, but still, many of us can learn from those words, I think. And it stuck with me because it's somebody in my family that I greatly admire. And he said to me, that's what you have to do. You have to, every day, you choose. It's not always going to be a good day. But the mindset you can choose, and that goes back to the coping mechanism. What is it about this situation that I can change? What is it about this situation that I need to do? Your dad, do the job. DTJ, what is it that is, might be my responsibility here that I can change about this or improve this situation? What is this situation? Assessing that and then being able to go from there, that's part of those coping skills that I think many people maybe take years to develop, but I hope everybody eventually has.
Didn't matter whether we were rich or poor either. When I was living in my small, tiny apartment with the cockroaches in the refrigerator and the fire ants coming through the floorboard, I was the happiest SOB alive.
Yeah.
When you were homeless in your car.
Yep, I was happy.
I was happy.
I was happy.
Always happy.
Right.
And when I
had a home, it was a 75 Dodge Dart.
And a lot less square footage than the tiny apartment that I was in.
Barely.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, an editorial that I want to read on Charlie Kirk coming up, and then what we see on social media, the anger that exists out there, and just I guess a few suggestions for people based on what probably Charlie Kirk would want you to focus on.
Yeah.
Now. I don't think anybody's saying not to be passionate or angry in this case, because absolutely you should be for what happens and demand accountability for whoever did this. But when it comes to your life, your politics, what would he probably want you to do based on what we all know? All coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. Been talking all throughout the night about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, his message. I do want to play this audio cut, though, just because I just found it here, and it was Bill Maher, him with Bill Maher. All right? You ready? Here we
All right.
This is actually quite humorous. Here we go.
Drink?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
You don't drink?
No.
Or smoke pot?
No.
And you're married and super Christian. We're going to go on great.
No, this is going to just be perfect.
But can I just ask you, because I want to find out a lot about you, because you're obviously a super bright guy, but you do think that I have the right to live completely opposite than you do.
I think you can get as drunk as you'd like.
And you're that kind of an American, right? You're not forcing your opinions as.
I'm not here to say you can't. What are you talking about?
No, okay. So you think pot should be legal?
That's a complicated.
Oh,
I would ask the question though, like, do you think since the legalization of marijuana, in LA, it's made it a better or worse place to live, or just it hasn't changed at all?
It certainly hasn't changed my life.
Okay.
I grew up right outside here.
Do you think the quality of life has gone up or down?
Well, I don't know, but that's not really the relevant question, is it? Even if there is a deleterious effect, there is too many things we do, and we would not use that as a reason to prescribe our basic freedoms.
Should people, be able to do drugs?
Should people
outside, like on the street, or?
No, definitely not on the street.
Okay, so there are some limits.
Of course, there are limits. Yeah. Yes.
There you go. I swear, it's like Bill Maher was drunk in that. He looks like he's had a few pops.
Well, and that's from the podcast, right?
Yeah, it's just from the podcast where they're having coffee.
He
drinks all the time.
He drinks on the podcast. I don't know how much he drinks. I can't quantify it.
That's just a weird thing. I've seen that more on podcasts where they're drinking.
Foreign concept to me.
And I'm just like, well, if I'm going to have a couple of drinks, it's it'll be watching football games with my buddies. If you bring me in, Gary, I'd like to pick your mind. Get me wasted, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't. I don't drink anyway, but I just don't get that. I don't. It's a foreign concept. I guess the idea is, let's just talk like we're just having a cocktail. Yeah, but you're actually having a cocktail.
Well, actually, I don't know if that's a good message. Let's talk drunk. That will relax us.
Right. Yeah. That's nothing. I'm sure nothing will escalate quickly.
But as you can see here, he's, Bill Maher, you're opposite of me, and but you can tell he's extremely comfortable with him. And that's the whole thing about all the hate that you see. I will say this, though, because you see there's a lot of anger out there, as there should be.
Yeah.
What happened is an abomination. He was assassinated.
Yeah.
And most likely it was a political assassination.
Mm-hmm.
We will find out. They'll find out how this happened. This is probably not going to be, the odds are very, very low. This is going to be an unsolved crime or an unsolved murder.
Right.
But there's so much anger out there, and you see the rhetoric. And it's getting very heated. I would say that don't lose your passion.
Right.
I'm never going to lose my passion for doing this.
No.
It's one of the reasons I haven't retired. I love doing this, and I love being in the arena of ideas, and I love being on the offense instead of the defense against the left in this country. Yeah. I love being in a position where I can do that. I absolutely so I would never give it up. But if you want to honor him, I'd say in your life, look for a young person that you can somehow mentor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way if you wish to honor him, if you want to take that anger and turn it. I'm not saying don't give up the passion.
Yeah.
But
have a civil conversation.
Right. Don't hate.
Empower them somehow, because if you think about one of the things, you and I talked about this during the break. I don't know if we mentioned it on the air exactly this way, but Charlie Kirk saw the potential of, and you mentioned, in fact, it was during the break, we were talking about Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss, again, I don't put a label conservative or liberal. She used to be a liberal. She's clearly a critical thinker and a really great journalist. And you made the comment, there's somebody I can have a conversation with and I know has an open mind.
That I believe that I have a possibility of being able to change her mind.
Yes, you could. I could
change.
You could convince
I might
her.
Not, right.
And again, just it's all relative.
I might not be able to.
But you believe
but
she's open to listening.
She's presented herself in that way where it's like, okay, I used to, not like Trump or Michael Rappaport. I hated Trump. I hated. You could not
have a conversation back then.
5 years
Michael
ago,
Rappaport.
You and I could not have a conversation with him.
And now you can't have a conversation with him about Gavin Newsom. So that's the big
I think we
difference.
could.
Well, we would be saying the same things probably, but, Gavin with a good hair.
But I'm sure he still has liberal viewpoints. But the fact is, since he's opened his mind saying, okay, I've been lied to.
Yeah.
Because that's his opinion. I've been lied to by the left. I'm rejecting this and this and this of what they've told me about Trump. It doesn't mean they change their opinion on the issues, but they're like, I want to base my opinion on things that are truthful. And I think that's what you've seen in Barry Weiss, Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, a bunch of even as I mentioned, not all the way with Bill Maher, because still at times he'll take a position. It's like, you didn't explain yourself. And until you explain yourself fully.
Yeah, there are some missing pieces of that puzzle. But I am more open to watching Bill, listening to Bill, whatever you want to say, than I have been in past years. And the point, I think, with Charlie Kirk is exactly what you mentioned. What he saw in creating Turning Point at the age of 18, imagine having this kind of vision. I told you during the break, I didn't have the motivation to make a sandwich, let alone make a difference at 18.
Well, I was probably more like Bill Maher. Where can I get my next buzz?
No, exactly.
I was more like Bill Maher,
thinking in the moment
as an adult.
Well, and here Charlie is so young, and he has that vision, but he saw exactly what you just said. He believed, I think I can convince a number of people.
Yeah.
I can have that debate at the very least. And I believe I can do that. And he did.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly made a difference, knowing that at every event, it was going to be a great number of people that were there that did not agree with him. And that was okay. But his approach, this is why the thoughts, the comments that his events were filled with hate should be rejected, countered at every turn, and corrected at every turn. Because when you have that, you're looking to empower people. That's what Charlie Kirk was looking to do. Empower those young people with his ideas, with his experience, his debate skills, the facts. And he just had an open mind about it. He didn't need to get them to agree 100%, convert to whatever. He didn't need to do that. You just heard it in his exchange with Bill Maher. But he had that vision of, but still, because some people would look at it and go, well, if I can't convince them all, if I can't convert them all, if I can't, why would I even, that's a futile effort. A lot of people, a lot of good people would have said that, especially at the age of 18.
What I found out from the mentoring of young people, and I'll even include my nephew and then his son, my great nephew, who is still he's just turned 17, is the fact that the left is the one who wishes to give you no choice. You must think this way. And what I have found out, and this is from every single person, as I've said before, I have two women in my life who I consider my chosen daughters.
Yeah.
And these are two young women that I met when they were very, very young, whose parents were both totally by coincidence, just happenstance,
right?
Whose both parents were drug addicts. And basically they were kicked out of their houses at times when they were 13, 14 years of age. One of them left home at 15, and the parents didn't care, and was on her own at like 15. And so I've had many, many discussions. I just use those. I use those four. There's been more, but I use those four as just an example of when they're growing up. Well, what do you think about this? And I'd say, well, here it is, and I believe it's because of this, and this. And then I would tell each and every one of them, especially my great-nephew right now, because he's the one that's still the youngest. The others are older now, and, basically they're critical thinkers. I've said, look, I'm going to tell you what I believe, but don't take my side because I'm your great uncle. And I said it to my nephew, the same thing. Don't take my side because you love me and you feel loyalty to me. You make sure that you agree with me. If you're going to agree with me, you agree with me because you agree that all the points that I have brought up are logical. When you do that, you're giving that person a choice. You're telling them you have the ability to be a critical thinker. I don't want you
That's empowerment.
Right. I don't want you to agree with me. The other side's telling them you can't even discuss this. You have to agree or we'll threaten you, we'll destroy your life. You don't need to do that on the right. And I said, everything you do. And so what do you get from them? What did I get from them all throughout, their adolescence going into adults? They were asking me questions all the time. Yeah. It wasn't a debate. They weren't coming at me going, I disagree with you on this and I think you're wrong. They were like, why do you think this? Why do you think that? Why do you think that? Because they knew that I was never attempting. I would tell them my opinion and why I believed it, but I wasn't trying to force them. I was empowering them to make the right decision, which was of course, always my opinion.
Yeah. Right. Well, no, I think you and I have had the same approach. I know that with my children, and I give my wife so much credit in doing so much heavy lifting. But our approach was, especially when they were adolescents, adolescents have a lot to say. And as Charlie mentioned, we played the audio cut earlier. If you're not having the discussions, that never turns into something good. And I would apply that to adolescents. If they're not talking things out with people who are willing to listen, not condemn, there is a balance between that approach and discipline, because both have to exist, I believe. And it was our approach. Mm-hmm. And we happen to have, in fact, the kids had a couple of friends that were in the same situation as you mentioned. We didn't know how extensive it was until years later, how bad it was for one of them. But we always had that open door policy. And we would cook dinner, and we would just sit back and listen and let them talk without judgment. And then offer, well, maybe this, maybe you could try this, or maybe, and not go to the point of judgment. So it's holding court without holding court, but allowing them that process of for them in their mind to work through that. And it's critical. You mentioned, your advice would be to reach out and mentor a young person. I think right now we're at a critical point. We don't need to convert young minds. We need to nurture critical
thinking skills.
And those, and that's was our attempt then. I apply that to my children, as you mentioned. You don't have to vote for the same people I vote for. You don't have to think the same things I do, even given what I do for a living. And your friends all know what I do for a living. That doesn't even apply. My oldest was going through a history class, a world history class at college. And the professor said, and my daughter told me the professor was on the left. But this professor said to the class, I would like you to tune in to this all-night radio show. There's my daughter sitting in this class.
That's greatness.
There are two guys on there, and you don't have to agree with them. I'm not telling you I want you to listen in order to sway your opinion, because I don't agree with everything they say. But listen to the logic of what you mentioned earlier, how they get to their opinion. And I want you, and then they had a discussion, and the whole time my daughter didn't want to influence in any way and say, hey, that's my dad. One of those guys is my dad. So she waited until after her finals. She goes to hand in her final. She goes, you know that day a couple of months ago you were mentioning that all-night radio show? She goes, yeah. She goes, one of those guys, Eric, Harley, is my dad. And the professor goes, huh. I said, see, that's why you don't want to brag about it. It's not much of a deal. Yeah. But it was, when you think about that, again, it is about that empowerment, because that's what's lacking is the critical. I don't think they lack the skills. It's the development and application of those skills.
Yeah, but part of the anger you feel, take part of that. And I think Charlie Kirk would want you, find a young person or,
I agree.
Develop your own kids into being critical thinkers.
I think he was trying to do that. So
that's what he was doing.
It's exactly what he was, Turning Point was about. And
he was succeeding in doing it.
He was doing
treating them as intelligent human beings.
Exactly. And respect.
Right. 866-98-RED-I.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, I wanted to read this editorial. In fact, the editorial in the New York Post, I want to read a couple of paragraphs from it about Charlie Kirk because it's just incredibly wonderful, and we'll see. I haven't seen any update yet.
No,
I just checked about 5 minutes ago. I didn't see any update yet on the search for the gunman.
Right. Nothing new. Yeah. We will definitely keep you posted.
Yep.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We're talking about the assassination of Charlie Kirk and talking about him as somebody that we view as an ally, especially when it comes to the big picture of, where we stand on America, the Constitution, free speech, debate, everything else. We've been playing audio cuts that we think are some great audio cuts from him. Here's another one. He was doing, I don't know what podcast, I think it's called the At Whatever Podcast, and it was all women. Okay, and here's just a small audio cut of what he had to say about how he feels so blessed about his life.
And I can tell you I'm super blessed. I have the best wife in the world. We have an amazing life. Building a family is the coolest thing ever. And my prayer for all of you is that you one day can do that. That's so cute. It's honestly the most joyful thing. And I've had some pretty amazing experiences. I've been very, very blessed. Very lucky, you could say, but very blessed is the word I would use. And the greatest joy I've ever had is coming home to my little daughter running up to my leg. There's nothing that even comes close to it. Not flying on Air Force One, not meeting with presidents. That's all that pales in comparison to your little girl coming up and squeezing your leg.
Aww. I love that. And I can certainly relate. In that moment, I might have debated Charlie because I have the best wife in the world. So, But that's for another day. But I know that feeling.
But it's what we said earlier. We said the anger and the hate that you see on the left.
Yeah.
And what Charlie Kirk always said, I'm not going to be that way. I'm going to promote joy. I'm going to promote joy with people that I disagree with. Everything's going to be about joy. Everything's going to be about happiness.
And he lived by what he was promoting again.
But he had gratitude at such a young age.
Exactly. Well, and vision.
Yeah.
He promoted. Well, how about you party less? You get married, have children. I have a joyous life. It's what I did. I have a joyous life. Showing the example, leading by example in that case. And by the way, again, that joy came through consistently with Charlie Kirk. It was on full display, and that's what you see. There are a lot of people in the, if you want to say, influencer world, influencer universe. It's hard to know if what they're doing and what they do is genuine.
Are they in it? Are they in it for the clicks, or are they in it?
Exactly. But with Charlie Kirk, there was no question. It was authentic to the core.
From the New York Post, what makes this assassination so especially heinous is that Charlie Kirk was the furthest thing from a demagogue or firebrand. Yes, he took controversial positions, some of which we disagreed with, but he was always ready, eager to hash them out vigorously and utterly without rancor. His whole persona, his entire appeal was his willingness and availability to debate, to subject his arguments to testing in the marketplace of ideas as he would joyfully test anyone else's. What we as a culture have got to get back to is being able to have a reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option. Kirk spoke, lived, and died according to those words. He welcomed the chance to argue civilly with random people whose opinions differed completely, exemplified the spirit of liberal, in the old school sense of espousing liberty and generosity of spirit, give and take. How refreshing in an age of shouting TV heads and vapid social media posturing that Charlie Kirk would go to any campus or any auditorium to happily engage in lively conversation without resorting to insults or mic drop ready applause lines.
Yeah.
And do it in a happy way. It's no coincidence he was killed on a university campus. He conducted many of his debates there in the liberal belly of the academic beast, giving lefty students possibly their only exposure to conservative arguments and inspiring beleaguered righties. Not just on campus, of course. Charlie's social media reach was enormous, a force contributing hugely to debates right and left, not least at age 18, with an exclamation mark. He co-founded the youth outreach group Turning Point USA, leading it to the day of his death, growing into a major force of conservative activism and a lifeboat for conservatives on campuses across the country. His voice, measured, thoughtful, respectful, infuriated his opponents. As I said earlier, that's why he was such a big, that's why the far left viewed him as such an incredible danger.
Yes.
Because he was able to go on the college campuses, and the majority of people on the left would have civil conversations with him. You can't have civil conversations with anybody on the right.
Well, no,
you can't do it.
That is forbidden with the radical left. You cannot have those conversations, and he always believed you could.
It infuriated his opponents, almost all on the left, and sure that conservatives have to be dumb, nasty, and intolerant. How dare Charlie Kirk present pro-family, pro-market ideas with calm confidence? You can't even honestly call this a political killing. Kirk was no candidate or politician. His only power was the power of the spoken word. But I understand why people say it was a political killing.
Right, yes.
The assassination was nothing less than an attack on the principle of free speech itself. That's a good point. We expect the killer will...
That's a great point.
Yeah, we expect the killer will prove to suffer some level of mental illness, but we're also grimly aware that some on the left will cheer this crime as they have. We haven't played any of those audio cuts today. We just don't want to go there today. We will go there, just not today, because it's important that people know what is going on our college campuses and what the students that hated him and others that hated him on the left are saying. And as I'm not reading from the editorial anymore. Scott Jennings said, what was his sin?
Right.
When people say he was controversial.
Right, that his events were filled with hate.
Well,
Where?
What I love is, the majority of the opinions that he would take were always 50-50 at the least.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of them were the 80-20s.
Yeah.
But also we are grimly aware that some of the left will cheer this crime as somehow heroic, as they've done with Luigi Mangione and others. And if some critical mass of people believe it's reasonable to contest speech with deadly violence, then America is entering a dark and ugly era indeed.
Yeah.
Well, we saw it with, again, Mangione, that he was viewed as a hero. I mean, it was mind-boggling, and so I think even more now. Well, why? Because he's he was the CEO of a health insurance company, and so he should be murdered. What the hell?
Well, again, you had a lawmaker, AOC, in the wake of the murder of Brian Thompson, said, well, you have to understand that when people get their claims, not knowing, by the way, anything at all about the alleged shooter or motivation, she said, you have to understand that when people get their claims denied, they see that as an act of violence. And
wow,
Mangione still is seen by radicals as some kind of hero. That's grotesque in every single way.
I did. You had told me that people were requesting some of the audio, which is actually comes from videos of Charlie Kirk. I have posted them at Gary Red Eye 1.
Right.
So
I've
posted like 4 or 5 different audio cuts, because that's the thing and it did hit us. We didn't talk yesterday, just when we came in, and we looked at each other. It hit us the same way, because the dumbest thing is when people have to preface, because everybody does it. Well, I didn't agree with him on everything. Well, who the hell do you?
Right.
Agree with everything.
Right.
When I look at Charlie Kirk, it's the big picture. It's the way that you and I, our ideology about how to debate, how to argue, don't be hate-filled. I would never want to be hate-filled. I couldn't live that kind of life. You and I've talked about it before. The furious and the anger, you can see it, constant anger and fury that isn't built on a coherent argument.
Right.
There isn't The View would be a perfect example. Mm-hmm. They're screaming and yelling like, well, what you're angry about isn't true.
Right.
I would hate to go through life like that.
Well,
I would absolutely hate to have that soul, that kind of tortured soul, and go through that all the time. And I think Charlie Kirk was the same way, and I think that's why we had that camaraderie or that brotherhood, even though we never met him before.
Right.
I've never met him.
Right.
But it was the happiness that he brought. I remember one time you telling me, you said, because a long time ago, you guys are just, you're not angry enough. And you just said nobody. And we've always gone to the Declaration of Independence. We are pursuing happiness every single day.
They're not going to steal my joy.
You said that. You said, nobody's ever going to steal my joy. You're not. If you steal my joy, you're stealing my life. You're not getting my life. And I think that's exactly how Charlie Kirk thought.
Well, to the point that we both believe the same thing, yet I had great and still do have great admiration for his expression of that joy in his life. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you also have joy. But it was so refreshing and bright to see. You can't help but admire it, even if you feel the same way in your life. It is indescribable in many ways.
But it was just, I thought you had the perfect story earlier about going through the drive-through.
Yeah.
And it's, whenever I go through the drive-through, I think of Wayne and Garth.
Yeah.
But it was like, good morning. How are you? How's your day today?
Well, and now they have the AI thing. Hello, would you like to use your app today? Which starts the conversation. And then it's a real person. Hey, what can I get you? Well, the guy at the drive-thru yesterday, and I was just running errands and thought, okay, I got to eat something. I just pulled through, and he goes, hello, what would you like today? And at first I was thinking, is that AI? And I told him, I got a number 9 with a medium soda. All right, my friend, just pull around the corner. First window. And I pull up there, and then, as he takes my card and then gives me my receipt back, he says, you look happy. And I said, I am, and I had not even noticed the smile that man put on my face.
Yeah. And you're happy.
I am
but
happy.
You were so impressed.
But it was...
You're drawn to happiness.
It's contagious. It is in a way that you cannot defeat. And I think that's another thing that many on the left didn't like about Charlie. Wait a minute. Not only can we not have open discussions, we can't do it with this kind of joy and approach that he had and a respectful back and forth during that debate. It may be a healthy debate. It may pick up on the pace, the cadence of that debate may pick up a little bit, but there was always respect for his counterpart in that debate setting. And the left couldn't have that kind of mentality, much less have it apply to open discussions about ideas. That defeats all of their agenda.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Not tomorrow, but today. Because our show ends in an hour, and when our show ends, it becomes our podcast.
That's right.
Our podcast is a repeat of our show.
Yep.
So if you didn't catch parts of the show and wish to, then download our Red Eye Radio app. And if for some reason you cannot listen to one of our great radio stations overnight, now, that's the preferred way, though.
Mm-hmm. We're radio guys.
Yes. But if you can't for some reason, we stream all 5 hours live on our Red Eye Radio app.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible day yesterday. Looking for any new developments overnight. We haven't been able to. We haven't seen any yet on the gunman.
Right.
And really nothing else. Probably we won't hear anything until, I'm going to guess, probably a press conference in the morning on it.
I'm guessing unless there is some kind of breaking news that comes out ahead of a press conference, but we're certainly watching that throughout the morning.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.